I'm wondering how much a few people might tolerate kind of video diary from me. I'm not expecting much, but I just thought I would document some of my thoughts. I was just thinking about tariffs and about how I think the only reason to have tariffs is to protect a legitimate business of the country imposing the tariffs. But you only have high tariffs on things that your country is already producing. Otherwise, you have a situation like we do in America where a lot of the things that have high tariffs now are things that people who are poor rely on every day. And these are things that aren't made in the United States, certainly for those kind of prices. So you just essentially raise prices on the poor uh, without doing anything to benefit the local economy whatsoever. I mean, I know I'm paying more for things that I used to buy with some regularity, uh, and certainly things for my hobbies and things like that are now either too expensive or things that I just don't like the X factor of not knowing if I'm going to get a bill later on for, like, I ordered something recently and I got a FedEx bill for $20 because apparently the seller pushed those expenses into the FedEx system somehow, and FedEx billed me for it. And I didn't have a choice, and I didn't know that that was going to happen. Anyway, if the administration had made huge infrastructure investments in local production, and subsidized producing all these goods that are now much more expensive before putting the tariffs in place, there might have been some sense to it. But that's not what happened. And so many of the people who voted for Trump um, are paying the price, and he is somehow managing to tell people that prices are coming down. And anybody who's going to the grocery store or buying anything knows that that's absolutely not the case. Prices are only going up. And I just don't understand how that disconnect can continue for people to not realize, you know, things have changed, and as a direct result of him being in office. Um, I also was thinking about Lincoln's statement, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." Uh, but the sad thing is we're so driven to a team's mentality, and you root for your team, and like you would destroy the world if it meant the other team didn't win, and that's sort of what we're doing with America right now. We'd rather have America fall apart uh, to own the libs than trying to find some solution that helps us work together. Because if two people are trying to solve a problem collectively, that's going to be more constructive. Whereas if two people mostly care about just destroying the other person, that's a destructive solution, obviously. Um, I was watching a video about life after the collapse of the Soviet Union, um, and about the reaction by a former Soviet to the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And he was saying, "Why are you doing this? This just makes you look foolish as a country." Um, And the thing is in Russia they only had one team. So if you were against that team, I mean, you might be for, freedom from oppression, which is understandable, but being against the team also meant you were against yourself to a great extent. And again, freedom would have been a constructive solution rather than a destructive solution. Uh, Whereas in this country, we don't seem to mind a destructive solution. Uh, and solution isn't even the word. Uh, anyway, so by having these tribes, teams, sides, you know, um, we are incentivizing destruction over cooperation. And so much of what decides what political side people will be on, strangely, isn't economics or world policies, it's culture wars. So, which are a distraction from economics and worldwide policies. Um, People are more concerned about um, people's sexual activities and sexual identities than they are about, you know, how our economic policies are going to impact their local community. Um, and so we have a situation where people are manipulated into being angry about things that don't matter for them. Uh, I mean, it doesn't matter to someone who's living in the South if there's some gay person or some transgender person in their neighborhood. That doesn't directly affect them. They may not like it, they may not understand it, uh, but it doesn't really affect or change their life or make their life more difficult. They may have to explain to their kid, well, that person doesn't feel like the sex they were born with is what they feel like inside. And that's not something I can relate to. And this is something that is going to make their life more difficult, not more easy. So the fact that they're confronting this shows that it's something that is a deeply personal thing. And ultimately, it's not any of our business. And we can just ignore it. We don't have to care about that. It doesn't affect our lives whatsoever. But for some reason, that's the thing that upsets the people the most. Meanwhile, 25 years ago, a little over 25 years ago, the nation lost its mind about Monica Lewinsky. Meanwhile, the current president is probably someone who has had sex with underage people provided by Epstein, and is known to have had sex with a porn star while his wife was dealing with their new baby, and had the obvious statement of grabbing women by the what. And that didn't cause those people to react to a degree that would change their vote, whereas they lost their minds about the president having an affair with an aide. Obviously that wasn't a great thing, wasn't a noble thing. It was a human thing, but it's not something that affected the country other than in their opinion of a human being and leader that didn't really affect them in any way. Meanwhile, I would argue that the current president is more against the principles of Christianity than that president was in every possible metric. So I just don't understand. I think that values are something we all aspire to, and we also have different ideas of what those values should be. And one of the best measurements of values is how much they impact other people. And someone's sexual choices among consenting adults isn't something that really affects other people. Meanwhile, people who create a situation where the rich are more and more rewarded for what they do and less taxed for the magnitude of their success. Meanwhile, poor people are paying more at the grocery store in everything that they purchase and require to live. That imbalance hasn't outraged the people on one whole side of the country to the degree that they're asking their politicians to raise taxes on the enormously wealthy. And the people who are wealthy aren't saying to themselves, this is out of whack. You know, you don't see Elon Musk saying, I don't need $300 billion. That doesn't make sense when there are so many people who are homeless and people just living paycheck to paycheck on debt, just trying to survive day to day. And if their car breaks down, they suddenly lose everything. You know, meanwhile, you know, he doesn't even feel any kind of economic stress. It just doesn't make any sense that we haven't reacted to this yet, universally, not just on one side, but everyone. Anyway, politics are not fun, but we all live with the consequences every day. And I don't know what people are thinking when they can't listen to people who have a different viewpoint from them and say, okay, there's some truth in this aspect of what you're saying. You know, I love the Oliver, I think it's Oliver Wendell Holmes. I'll misquote it, but it's something like, your right to swing your fist ends when it hits, before it hits my nose, or something like that. Meaning that, sure, we all have freedom, but we don't have the freedom to hurt other people without consequences to ourselves. And people are being hurt, and there are consequences, and the people in power are doing nothing.